Afternoon, Amanda Harry here in the WVLT newsroom. Today marks 1 year since Summer Wells disappeared from her home in Hawkins County. The case has gained national attention. Thousands of tips have poured into the TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and a massive reward fund continues to grow, but still no viable leads in this case. Now, Summer was 5 years old at the time she disappeared from her rural Hawkins County home. Since her disappearance, she has turned 6 years old. Now, Summer's parents, Candace Bly and Don Wells, reported Summer missing around 6:30 on June 15th a year ago. They reported her missing from the home in the Beach Creek area of Hawkins County, Tennessee. And that very night, the TBI issued an endangered child alert. By the next day, though, the case had become elevated. So the TBI switched over in the course of less than 12 hours from an endangered child alert to this Amber Alert, essentially indicating that they had reason to believe she was in immediate danger. And we're going to get that tweet for you that they initially pulled out or sent out from the TBI handle on Twitter for the Amber Alert, because I think it is very telling about how quickly their concern escalated in those early moments or early hours of this investigation. So at first they came out with this endangered child alert. That was the night of June 15th a year ago, after Summer's parents reported her missing. Then by the next morning, TBI issued an Amber Alert, essentially escalating the case. And they said, quote, "New information and growing concern about the well-being of Summer Wells has us now issuing a statewide Amber Alert." So this case quickly escalated. It's still not clear what that new information was that led the TBI to move quickly with that Amber Alert, and that is information still a year later they have not disclosed to us. TBI is holding a news conference right now. We'll take a live look and show you as they begin setup for this news conference that is scheduled to happen within a few minutes at the top of the hour. This is happening in Hawkins County at the Justice Center, of course, the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, a huge part of this investigation throughout the last year. We are waiting for this news conference to start at any moment, but there are essentially two different investigations underway. One, the investigation into Summer's disappearance and the circumstances surrounding her disappearance, and then two, the actual search for Summer. So two different investigations still playing out right now. Erica Lunsford has been a big part of covering this story over the last year. She is in Hawkins County right now getting ready for this news conference to start.
Right now, we are outside the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office waiting for that press conference to start. We're hoping to hear from TBI officials and Sheriff Ronnie Lawson today to answer a few questions and to see if there's any new leads in the disappearance of Summer Wells. But this all will start at 11 o'clock. And again, we are hoping to get some questions answered as to if her brothers are back at home, if not, where are they, and if they have any new information about what's happening with reward for Summer Wells. How much is that, and if they are having any other plans to do with those funds raised to help find Summer and bring her back home. All right, we're going to stay tuned, and we will let you guys know when we have more information coming up shortly.
All right, Erica Lunsford, thank you. Erica Lunsford standing by as this news conference is about to get underway from the TBI. Now, we should point out that the TBI has indicated to us ahead of time that they will not be releasing new information about the case. Their intention with this news conference is to basically explain the steps that they have taken over the last year to try and find Summer and to try and figure out what happened to her and where she is. So we don't anticipate any new information about the search for her or the circumstances surrounding her disappearance, but we do expect a recap from the TBI and the Sheriff's Office to recount the steps that they have taken, the efforts that they have made to find where she is. And we do see, as we take another live look at the news conference there, that we see some of these officials lining up, impressed preparation for the news conference. We expect the sheriff to speak at this. We expect the TBI to speak at this. It's unclear who else will be speaking or what exactly they will be covering. And just let me double check one thing. David, do you think we should wait for this, or do you want to go and ahead and read Dawn's statement really quick while we wait for them to come up?
They're getting close to going.
Okay. Okay. We're going to share a statement that we actually received from Summer Wells' father, Don Wells, very early this morning, a statement he used to mark 1 year since her disappearance. And we'll read that to you as we wait for authorities to take the podium here for this news conference that we expect to happen any moment. Don Wells wrote, "Since you've been gone, I've been completely devastated. I looked everywhere for you, my beautiful girl. I thought YouTube would be the most powerful tool to help find you, and perhaps it still could be, but at a price we may not be able to afford. Our family may not survive. I'm sorry, my beautiful girl, that I completely lost my mind with so many thoughts of people hurting you, and I know you want to come home, and there's nothing I can do. I am powerless. So I ask God, please look over my precious daughter. We love her so much. We wish God you will return her to us as well as the boys. I would be so happy to be a family again." And that is a statement that we received from Don Wells a little after midnight, so very early this morning, as we mark 1 year since Summer Wells' disappearance. A few days after Summer disappeared, and we're just going to go back in time here into the early moments of this investigation, the TBI announced that it was investigating Don Wells' claims of her disappearance. This is Leslie Earhart with TBI. Let's listen in now. We'll come back to this in a second.
Into the disappearance of Summer Wells is very much active and ongoing. Please understand, in order to preserve the integrity of the investigation, we simply can't speak to specifics. We appreciate you being here today and your continuing coverage of this case. At approximately 6:30 p.m. on this day, 1 year ago, Summer Wells, who was 5 years old at the time, was reported missing from her home on Ben Hill Road in the Beach Creek community of Hawkins County. When we held the first media briefing on June 16th, honestly, we expected to have good news to report by the time the next media briefing came around. Unfortunately, instead, day after day ended in frustration and disappointment. At that time, no one expected that we would still be searching for Summer 1 year later. We've said from the beginning that this case is outside the norm. There are few clues as to what happened to Summer, despite investigators doing everything within their power to find answers. All possibilities are still being explored. Many of you have asked for details about what's been done over the last year. I can tell you agents and detectives have spent thousands of hours on this case. Numerous search warrants have been executed, cell phone data has been analyzed, and any other available digital evidence has been collected, searched, and documented. This includes the social media accounts of those associated with Summer. 3 large ground searches have taken place in the last year with the assistance of more than 100 local, state, and federal agencies. Those searches do not account for the numerous targeted searches done by agents and detectives as they were following up on potential leads. From TBI alone, more than 100 agents, intelligence analysts, and support staff from across the state have been involved in this case. TBI agents working alongside the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office and the FBI have conducted nearly 170 interviews during the investigation. That does not count the hundreds of phone calls made to follow up on tips reported to law enforcement. While investigators have been diligently working to find answers, they've had to deal with thousands of tips generated by false information that in some cases has been intentionally spread across social media platforms. We know that this case has attracted the attention of individuals across the country who genuinely care about Summer and want nothing more but to help us find answers. We appreciate those people. However, we are also aware that there are some people using this case for their own personal gain by spreading false information on social media posts as facts. Some go as far as to solicit donations. This has had a major impact on the investigation and not in a good way. Moving forward, we ask the public not to submit tips as a result of a video they viewed on YouTube or a theory they've seen posted on Facebook. Please help us and only call if you have direct, specific information about the disappearance of Summer. This investigation weighs heavily on us all, and I can promise you that no one wants answers more than we do, and we are not going to stop until we find them. I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Ronnie Lawson.
Good morning. As Leslie mentioned, we didn't expect this case to be going on a year later. It's heartbreaking to me and my officers and the entire community. We've never stopped looking for Summer. We will continue to do so. There's never been a case in the history of Hawkins County Sheriff's Office that had officers working 365 days and had so many hours spent as we had in this investigation. Also, this office has never utilized so many different local, state, and federal agencies from across the state. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and the Federal Bureau of Investigation assist us in every step of this investigation. As you heard Leslie say, thousands of hours have been invested in finding Summer, thousands of them. 170 interviews have been done. Many of these individuals have spoken to more than one time. While we haven't said a lot about the details about the investigative actions that's taken place, please know that we've never stopped. I deeply appreciate the many rescue squads, the EMAs, and the volunteer fire departments for their help. And the support from the citizens and the communities of this county is just unbelievable and overwhelming with the encouragement we get with the food during the searches we've done, and all the law enforcement officers and agencies throughout the state of Tennessee. It's just phenomenal how everybody pitched in and helped us with these searches and with this investigation. And many of you have asked why that we didn't recruit private citizens to assist in these searches. With the extreme dangerous terrain that we were experiencing in searches, we were able to monitor each group and movement and their location. That way we knew that everybody came back to the command post safely. After the initial searches, then we had to go back and obtain the landowner's permission to search again. We could not allow or even grant permission for private individuals going to these people's property. And while I can promise you that we will continue to conduct target searches in the Beach Creek area as new information is developed, we'll also continue to follow up on any legitimate leads. And it's been the goal of this team since day one to find Summer. We've never stopped, we've never slowed down, we deal with it every day. And that's the whole purpose of this, to let you all know, despite what you hear, what you see, we haven't stopped. The men and women of these agencies have worked tirelessly, hours and hours and hours. And I commend every one of them for the job they've done, and we're going to continue till we find Summer.
Now, as I mentioned, we can't speak to specifics, but we will take a few questions.
A few months ago, you guys said that the parents were not cooperating anymore. Has there been any change in that, especially as Don Wells is incarcerated here in this facility?
We're not going to characterize cooperation at this time. Honestly, doing so does nothing but create more speculation, and it doesn't benefit the investigation, but thank you for asking.
Is there still a reward being offered if any information or Summer is found?
Well, I can tell you that law enforcement did not coordinate that reward, so you would need to reach out to the Churchill Rescue Squad for information in that aspect.
Are the boys still in DCS custody?
That's not something we can speak to.
We do know that last year you guys pushed out some information about the red truck. I know that this is on here, but just so we can talk about it with you guys. Is that still something you're looking for? Do you still want people to submit tips, or is that over and we're just not looking for the red truck anymore?
I'm going to call on Tbi Special Agent in charge, Derek Newport, just to talk about that and where that stands.
I would tell you yes, just to eliminate we still don't have a good timeline on when that was observed. People that frequent areas on a regular basis can get days mixed up. We still want to figure out who, if possible, and if that's even a legitimate lead. So as she said earlier, we've followed a lot of dead leads that didn't produce anything. So that obviously is still something we want to put to bed, but it's not. We still can't pinpoint a date and an exact location of that truck.
Anybody else?
When this first came out, you guys said that Summer was last seen walking away from her home. That was like one of the initial reports that night. And then things kind of changed the following day. Is there any evidence that she walked away from home, or any evidence leading toward an abduction, or do we have any evidence of anything that night otherwise?
We don't have anything specific, and I think what's important to note there is that the sheriff mentioned how many hours we've put into this investigation and how much time has been spent exploring every possibility: walk-off, abduction, other foul means. And I think that's the thing to keep in mind is it's still really wide open as to the what. We try to stay away from developing theories and just follow facts.
You mentioned that you're continuing to look at this case every day. Are there more searches planned as we're approaching the summer months?
No specific plan. However, if we get get specific information about a specific location, building, what have you, we will coordinate with each other to go take a look at that location. What made it hard back in the summer is obviously the foliage. That's why you saw the 2 searches that were when the leaves were on the ground, so that we could use air assets and that you could actually see more of what's on the ground at the time. People say, well, leaves to cover things up. Well, you get to moving things around enough, you'll see what you're looking for.
In the past, you said that there's no evidence that there was an abduction. Does that still stand?
It still stands.
Still stands.
Do the facts point towards one theory more than another?
No, they do not.
Or what happened?
Not at this point.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for being here. I just want to point out one more thing. This case is not cold. We get asked that a lot. It's not. We're talking to the sheriff constantly. We all work together as one team, and we're determined to find answers. Thank you for coming.
All right, that concludes the news conference from the TBI and the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. 1 year since Summer Wells disappeared from her family home in Hawkins County. No new real information, just information that we have heard consistently throughout the last year, that this is a case that is outside the norm. Authorities saying this is very odd to be this far into an investigation and simply have this few of clues and be lacking so much in evidence. So authorities expressing their frustration with the lack of clues, the lack of evidence in this case, calling it extremely odd that they aren't further along. Leslie Earhart with the TBI saying in part of that announcement that they expected to have good news within the first day of that investigation, and that instead, day after day after day, those days ended in frustration, and they are just baffled by the fact that they are they're at a standstill, essentially. Now, they do say that this case is still active, that it is not cold, and that they have spent thousands of hours on this case, and that they continue to actively work with the sheriff's office to figure out whether anything new has come to light. So what have they done so far? And that's part of what Leslie covered in her announcement today is here's where we are in terms of the investigation. These are the steps that we've taken. So they have collected cell phone data and digital evidence, including analyzing the social media accounts of people involved. They have issued search warrants and executed search warrants. and that they have executed 3 massive ground searches. We'll get to that in just a moment. They say, though, look, we've been bogged down by a lot of inaccurate tips and theories, bad tips essentially circulating on social media. So they reiterated that request to people, only coming forward with direct and specific information. And that was a big part of their request today, and that's continued request. That's something that they have asked for over the course of the last year. Erica Lunsford, I believe, is ready for us. She is standing by live. She has been monitoring this news conference for us today, and she's been in Hawkins County for the better part of the morning. Erica, I sensed, and I'm sure you sensed this too, the same level of frustration, if not more, from authorities who are just dumbfounded by this case.
That's right, Amanda. And as you mentioned, they have received several thousands of tips, and some of them have resulted in false information. So they're asking for people to not submit false information, that they may have seen something from YouTube or Facebook. And as you mentioned before, this is not a cold case. They're still actively working on this. Sheriff Ronnie Lawson said no matter of what you've seen or what you've heard, they are still actively searching for Summer at this time.
And I think, Erica, it's interesting. Usually this far along into an investigation, authorities have an idea or a working theory of what they think may have happened. And it truly seems that in this case, they really have not gotten to that point. And we heard that from Leslie Earhart with the TBI. She says this case is outside the norm. There are few clues. Is that the sense that you are picking up on as you listen to them speak in person today?
Exactly. She mentioned this case has been very frustrating, and disappointment has come to them as they are trying to actively kind of get some clues and leads to figure out where Summer is or what happened in those investigations.
And we know that fairly early on, Summer's 3 brothers were removed from the home by DCS. Don Wells had said at that time that they were removed from the home because the home was an unsafe environment with trespassers trying to get onto the property and what he called threats on social media. It's fairly difficult to get updates about children in DCS custody. We did ask about that today. Where did we get with that from the TBI?
Currently, there's a gag order, so they're not able to share information about that at this time.
Yeah, so it's unclear where they are. We understand that Candace Bly is still at the property at the family home, but that, of course, Don Wells is still in custody. Have you heard anything from community members out there today?
No, I have not had a chance to reach out and see, but I hope to hear from somebody here tonight. I know there will be a prayer vigil for Summer, and we're hoping to see people come out here and maybe share some stories or just something that, their heartfelt feelings for the situation at this time.
All right, Erica, anything else that you want to add before we let you go here? We're going to move on and look back at the timeline of the case, but anything else that sticks out to you?
No, I think we pretty much summed it up. I mean, Sheriff Ronnie Lawson said Hawkins County has never had a case like this before, and so they're just trying to find answers and actively still searching for her at this time.
All right, Erica, and if you will just stay on standby for us. You had an exclusive interview with Don Wells, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. And we'd like to talk with you a little bit about your feelings as you walked away from the family home and what you saw and what you felt as you concluded that interview. So, Erica Lunsford reporting live after this news conference from the TBI. We'll get back with you here shortly, Erica, to talk more about your interview with Don Wells. It was quite lengthy and quite interesting. First, though, we want to kind of set you up as to the timeline on this case. Just a few days after Summer Wells' disappearance, the TBI announced that it was investigating Don Wells' claims that she had been abducted. Claims we heard them again say today there is no evidence of an abduction, but claims that Don Wells doubled down on in an exclusive interview with Erica Lunsford. Take a listen.
I think whoever grabbed her probably had her mouth covered, and I think she was gasping for air by the time she got down through here somewhere, because our neighbor heard a scream, a really funny scream, and she's been telling us that all along. But
I have to tag out the package, and then we can leave.
Yeah, so basically we're hearing Don Wells tell Erica there that he thinks whoever grabbed Summer probably had her mouth covered. Maybe she was gasping for air by the time she got somewhere. He says the neighbor heard a scream, and it was a really funny scream. Again, Don Wells' claims of an abduction are not supported by any evidence, according to the TBI. Weeks after her disappearance, Don Wells made an unsettling comment to the Kingsport Times News. He said, quote, "Statistically speaking, there's a good chance she is already dead. I hate to think that. I love her with all my heart. If nothing else, I will see her in the resurrection." All right, what happened in the moments leading up to the disappearance before Summer Wells' parents reported her missing June 15th a year ago at 6:30 in the afternoon? Candace Bly said that she and her mother, along with Summer, had been planting flowers, that they went inside to wash their hands, that she then walked Summer to the porch because Summer wanted to go into the kitchen and watch TV with her 3 brothers. So Summer Wells goes in, watches TV with her brothers. A couple minutes later, Candace Bly says she returned, but Summer wasn't there, and that she asked the 3 brothers, "Where is Summer?" The 3 brothers indicated that Summer had gone downstairs to the playroom to play with her toys. Candace Bly said she went down to the playroom, which was in the basement of the house, but saw no sign of Summer. Don Wells would later tell WVLT News that the door to the basement was often left open or unlocked, and he believes that may be how someone was able to get to Summer.
You get all kinds, you know, with the drug trade, and there are, you know, we've seen quite a bit of stuff surrounding the meth thing. We had parked in our neighbors caught them parked at our road in our driveway in the middle of the night or early in the morning and stuff like that, and run them off, and they get mad and they raise Cain, and we've had quite a bit of problems.
You hear Don Wells talking there about one of his many theories that he laid out to Erica in that exclusive interview, basically telling her that he believed there were a lot of questionable characters in the area and in the neighborhood. He called this a known drug dealing area. We took those claims to the sheriff at the time of this interview. He said it is not a drug hotspot and basically debunked Don Wells' claims. But again, Don Wells believes that somebody was lurking near that basement where the door was often left unlocked, where he says Summer was playing in the playroom. He believes someone may have been waiting in the basement or waiting outside of that open or unlocked door, and that that's how she was abducted. But again, we heard the TBI reiterate today that they have no evidence to substantiate an abduction. Let's talk about the search efforts that have played out over the last year. Don Wells said that TBI actually searched the family home, and you're looking at video of that there, aerials there. As part of the investigation, the TBI, we know, searched the home, and we heard them today reiterate that they executed several different search warrants. We understand the home to be one of those locations. And 4 days after the Amber Alert was issued, they executed a massive search effort on the ground. You see dogs there that had followed a trail for some time but then lost a scent near a road. We had 77 different agencies from multiple states, including Ohio, Alabama, Georgia, and North Carolina, that all started combing the wooded area and rugged terrain near the family home. And there were a couple different obstacles that search crews faced in these early days of the search. Number one, they had a really bad cell signal in this area, which made it difficult for crews to be able to communicate with each other. And then number two, this is an area that is full of rough terrain. It's hilly, it's mountainous, it's wooded, and so that really slowed down the search efforts as well. In December, the TBI conducted a planned search of the area to focus on spots that were previously overgrown and therefore maybe difficult to access. And so the TBI shared images of those efforts as the foliage kind of died down in those winter months. They said it's a lot easier for us to search areas where the brush isn't overgrown like it would be in the summer months. And so they searched from the air. They searched on the ground, and they even had divers who were going into bodies of water looking for pieces of evidence. And so those were some of the efforts that played out in that December search. Now, again, circling back to the brothers, we know that the 3 brothers were removed from the home by DCS in the early months of this investigation. And again, Don Wells said that the boys were taken because the home was deemed unsafe. He said that the home was deemed unsafe because of social media threats and because of trespassers who were coming onto the family property. Of course, DCS does not comment typically on open investigations involving children, so those claims were very difficult to verify. We heard again another attempt to get information about the brothers, where they are, if they're still in DCS custody. TBI not sharing information about that again. All right, let's talk about the family, because our reporting over the course of the last year uncovered 2 really interesting facts. The first, WVLT News learned that in 2020, Candace Bly filed an order of protection against Don Wells. And in that order of protection, she claimed that she felt unsafe with him in the home. And I'm going to read this direct quote from that order of protection. She said, "I am afraid for my children and myself. My mother, who was living in a camper on the property with them at the time, my mother fears he is going to hurt her." Now, 4 days later, Bly asked for that order of protection to be dropped. We're not sure why, but that case did not go any further. Summer is not the only member of this family to go missing. In 2009, her aunt disappeared. Her aunt, Rosemarie Bly, vanished from Wisconsin. She had gotten in her car, was headed to meet a cousin, but never reached that destination. And then 5 days later, 5 days after she disappeared, her car was actually found abandoned in a parking lot. No trace of her since, no tips, no sightings of her at all. Now, we heard in that news conference that we just carried from the TBI that there have been people who have been talking about this case online, hoping for personal gain out of it. They have warned against scammers who are trying to get money that may not be going to the right places. They have warned about people spreading false information on social media that has bogged down their investigation. And we do know that there's been a group of YouTubers who have been active near the Wells family home. And this is a group that we have spoken with over the last year. And essentially, they tell us their mission is to go to some of these locations involving missing people and missing children, and to kind of raise a ruckus and get loud with the hopes that it will put pressure on people to come forward and talk with information that could be important to the case. And so one of the women that we spoke with is Marissa Zazinski, and she documented her efforts of leading a group to the area near the family home in Hawkins County. And she openly admitted to us that she walked into a shed she believes belongs to the family just to see what was inside. That prompted Candace Bly to then later file a trespassing complaint, but charges were never filed in that case. And David, do we have that soundbite from Marissa ready? No? Okay, so I'm just going to read you the statement that she shared with us. She said about the charges not ever being followed through with, quote, "I don't believe Candace Bly has the nerve to walk into Hawkins County Police and press charges on me. What's it going to be, a fine? I would love to see this woman face to face." And she is a woman that runs a YouTube channel and told us at the time that any money she receives is used to fund these missions to go to these different locations where people are missing and try to put pressure on those involved to come forward or speak up. As we kind of close out this news conference or this live event for you after the news conference from the TBI, we want to update you quickly on what we know as of now. So thousands of tips have come in to the TBI. At last check, that reward that is being managed by a rescue group has grown to at least $74,000. We're still trying to get confirmation on whether that's grown even more as we reach this 1-year anniversary. And we learned from the TBI today that they have executed several search warrants, that they have collected cell phone data, digital evidence. They've accessed and analyzed the social media accounts of everybody who they believe is involved. And they've executed 3 large ground searches, and that more than 100 local, state, and federal agencies have been a part of this investigation. But unfortunately, the TBI says they have been bogged down by tips that are simply rumor that have been sourced from bad sources online. So they've really stressed, if you've got specific and detailed information about where Summer may be, come forward with that, but don't contact us about something you heard on social media. The Sheriff Ronnie Lawson, saying we have never stopped looking for Summer, and that this office has never used so many resources as it has now to assist in a case. We do want to share, because we do think it is interesting to see the property where Summer disappeared from and hear more about some of the theories that Don Wells, her father, has offered over the course of the last year. So we want to play the exclusive interview that Erica Lunsford had with Don Wells. So take a moment to take a listen to that, and then we'll circle back with Erica Lunsford, who's standing by live for us in Hawkins County.
And we'd get on them a lot, and so you can't do that, but it just, you know, we'd always find it open a lot of times and stuff, and so we tried to control that, but to know, you know, they couldn't control it 100% of the time.
Don Wells tells me Summer was last seen going to the basement to play with her toys. Her 3 older brothers upstairs, her mother and grandmother in the yard facing away from the basement door, and Don Wells at work.
We don't know if someone was waiting in the basement or if she come outside here and went to the swing. All we know is she went down the basement.
Wells says he believes someone was lurking at the top of a dog trail, just feet away from the basement door. He says the predator somehow managed to snatch Summer, then raced down the steep hill as she struggled.
I guess you guys want to walk down through here?
The trail was not an easy walk. To get down the rugged hill, Wells and I had to hold on to trees. I struggled not to trip or even fall on tree roots.
And you can slide a little bit.
So the dogs kind of came down this trail here?
Yeah.
It's pretty steep.
Yeah. And I didn't know the dogs even had a trail down through here until the police dogs followed it all the way to the road.
Wells says he overheard authorities say search dogs followed Summer's scent down the trail to the road before losing it. He painted a vivid picture of a kidnapping, telling me a neighbor likely heard Summer scream.
I think whoever grabbed her probably had her mouth covered, and I think she was gasping for air by the time she got down through here somewhere, because our neighbor heard a scream, a really funny scream. I think they just carried her to a vehicle and threw her in there and took her somewhere far away from here.
Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson has not publicly commented on specifics of the case until now. I asked Sheriff Lawson about Wells' claims. Did dogs follow Summer's scent down the trail to the main road? The sheriff says yes.
The dogs had a pretty good trail, a track for a little while, but then it disappeared. But they lost scent when they come to the road. And sometimes canines, they will lose the scent when it changes different type, where they maybe went from the gravel to the pavement.
And did a neighbor hear a scream?
Best I recall, it's been a couple months ago, I think that was unfounded.
Wells tells me the family home on Ben Hill Road is surrounded by drug dealers and buyers.
You get all kinds. you know, with the drug trade, and we've seen quite a bit of stuff surrounding the meth thing. And we've parked our neighbors caught them parked at our road in our driveway in the middle of the night or early in the morning and stuff like that, and run them off, and they get mad and they raise Cain, and we've had quite a bit of problems.
But Sheriff Lawson tells me Wells lives on a quiet street.
I've heard rumors of, you know, there is maybe a drug dealer on that road, but it's just like anywhere. Ben Hill Road is no different than any other roads in Hawkins, Sullivan, or any other county, as far as even Knox County. We all have drug problems, but no, that's not that problem. That's not correct either.
It's like a hot spot.
No, it's not a hot spot, and it's a dead-end road, so there's very little traffic, if any.
Don Wells says he doesn't know why anyone would take his daughter, but isn't shocked by the disappearance of a child.
There's a lot of missing children.
But Sheriff Lawson says children don't just go missing, especially in Hawkins County.
No, ma'am, we don't have any other missing children.
At Summer's Hilltop home, Wells showed me a refrigerator he says Summer played on.
You know, I don't know what else she did, but what in the world is that?
And we walked to Summer's swing.
This is her favorite.
That's her favorite, yes. She liked to twirl.
Don Wells is pleading for his daughter's return.
Whoever has her will have mercy, and you know, please let her come home.
Sheriff Lawson says investigators remain committed to finding Summer.
Everyone in Summer's case is still a suspect.
All right, Erica Lunsford is joining us live in Hawkins County. She just sat in on the news conference held by the TBI and the sheriff's office there, marking the one-year anniversary of Summer Wells' disappearance. Erica, first up, was Candace Bly, Summer's mom, was she at the property when you were interviewing Don Wells, and why didn't we see her in that story?
Amanda, she was there that day that we were filming, and she just stayed inside of the house. I just saw her briefly as we pulled up the driveway, and then she went inside, but I was told that she just did not want to speak on camera with us that day.
And we had seen her at previous prayer vigils that they have held out in the county, and I think you covered one of those. Do you remember how she seemed?
She was stoic for the most part, but there were moments where she did share a few tears, shed a few tears rather. But other than that, she remained quiet. She really didn't really speak too much or speak to other people. She just kind of stayed together to herself.
Okay. Erica, we just watched the story that you did with Don Wells, that exclusive interview that he gave WBLT News and you months back. Can you talk a little bit about what you think is the most telling or most interesting part of that interview? What really struck you as you walked away from that interview with him?
Well, just being there at her home, just walking around, it was very easy to tell that a child lived there. There were lots of little toys that she had, bracelets, My Little Pony, and things like that. And Don would just talk about things that she did. As you saw, he mentioned the refrigerator. But inside that refrigerator and outside of it, there were other little small toys that she would play with outside. So that kind of stuck aside with me, along with her swing that was still there. It was just very evident that she had enjoyed lots of time playing with her toys there, and they were still there.
And Don Wells told you that he believes she was abducted, but you kind of got a different story from the sheriff. What did Don tell you that didn't necessarily align with Sheriff Lawson?
It came down to that scream, a neighbor hearing a scream. Sheriff Lawson said that was unfounded. And so, you know, that is just, there's still lots of answers in this case at this time.
Yeah, and he also tried to lay out a theory that, you know, calling this area a drug hotspot, that there were maybe nefarious people in the area at the time. But Ronnie Lawson told you something pretty different.
Yeah, he said they live on a dead-end road, so there's not a lot of traffic that comes through that area at all, and it's not a drug hotspot.
Have you communicated with Don Wells since that interview?
I have not. I just had no contact with him directly, but I have spoke to family, friends, trying to see if I could talk to him, but at this time, we can't talk to him.
Yeah, and they have basically appointed a spokesperson that does most of this talking on behalf of the family, which is who coordinated that interview for you. All right, Erica Lunsford reporting for us on this 1-year anniversary of Summer Wells' disappearance. Erica Lunsford will remain out in Hawkins County and deliver live reports for us later this afternoon and early into the evening hours. Erica Lunsford, thank you so much. Again, the TBI coming out today in a news conference and saying, yes, we understand it at this 1-year anniversary of Summer Wells' disappearance. No, we don't have any new information or working theories. And yes, we are incredibly frustrated by that. They call this an extremely unusual case because of the lack of evidence and because of the lack of clues. They are continuing to ask people with direct and specific information to come forward and share that information. However, they are asking people who have maybe heard rumors or other information on social media not to come forward with that information because it simply bogs down their case. We are live in the WVLT newsroom. We'll share updates with you through the WVLT News app. Have a great day.